What's going on, everybody? All three of you here on this Thursday afternoon. Ethan Sauers, myself, going to talk a little bit of a CFB CFB pick'em on the Underdog. I read the little thing here. But yeah, we're here to talk about some Underdog pick'ems. One of the last, I guess this is like kind of the last major slate. We get a bunch of random bowl games and things like that, and the playoffs will be fun. But this is kind of like the last slate of the season. We'll have to do some adjusting on timing of next shows. But first things first, before we get into this, Ethan, why are the Campus Life guys always trying to bring us down?
Man, they hate us because they ain't us. That's the only thing I can think.
I can't find a more jealous group of people than the Campus Life people. And by the people, I mean Austin and Colin. But they don't watch this. Austin's probably behind the scenes watching this. Maybe he'll watch it on Sunday, like he watches all of our content. But we got a bunch of games. What is it, like 9 or 10 maybe across the 2 days, Friday night, all of Saturday.
Yeah.
You obviously have your Penn State game at the end of the day on Saturday, so that must be a little bit fun for you to sweat through some games before the biggest sweat of all.
Yeah, I mean it's house money at this point. I think I said it in the Slack the other day, but like Penn State going to playoff game is pretty much what we are in it for. We're not in it for a national championship, really. So
yeah, you tell yourself it's house money now, you know.
I mean, I'll be glad to replace those feelings and have a good sweat, but trying to remember, hey, this is history here, so let's go for it.
Let's get a couple more viewers on here before we dig into the nuts and bolts of this. Question for you: who would you most want to face in the playoff at Penn State, let's say, and who would you most want to avoid as a Penn State fan at Penn State? Assuming you guys get a home game, that's what I'm saying. Who do you want to face? Who do you not want to face?
Avoid is probably Ohio State.
You've seen that story before.
There's voodoo, there's demons to exercise there. I'd really not have to do that again this year. Most like to play. You know, my heart says I want an SEC team. I want a down south team to have to come up to Beaver in December 21st, I think, is the first round of the playoffs. So that just screams like cool weather matchup and a nice opportunity there. Maybe Alabama, being that team. I've seen that ranked a few times. Obviously wouldn't cough at seeing Boise or whichever G5 team gets in there, just from a matchup perspective. But I don't want like a Notre Dame or like a team or Indiana.
You don't want a northern team that's going to be accustomed to the weather.
Right, exactly. And not even because I think we'd fare better against them or against Alabama than we would, Indiana or somebody like that. But just I like the intrigue. It's a nostalgia feel about, like, we always talk about how these bowl games before the Pinstripe Bowl and the Fenway Bowl came around, like these down south teams don't have to deal with the elements ever.
Yeah, but you never see an SEC team go to the Fenway Bowl. Like, come on.
Right, exactly. So like I'd really like to see that and see how it plays out. But
all right, well, enough about your team. Way to make this about yourself.
We'll get there again. We'll bookend it with it.
Well, yeah. Way to make this about yourself, Ethan. Let's talk about the first game. I like this. I think in Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State, we have an interesting matchup because we literally just saw the matchup, right? Yeah. We just saw them play. But I think there's a big thing here to point out that's really impactful on these props. Jacksonville State's going to be questionable with Tyler Huff, which is a huge piece of the offense. If he didn't play, would Logan Smothers be the quarterback?
Yeah, that's everything that I've read is Smothers is the guy who's.
So we basically get like a Sam Houston State when like Hunter Watson's out. It's Chase Bauer that can only run. So I'd be weary of the Jacksonville State like receiving overs. Certainly. I think if you're going to play this game or, select pick'ems or props, what have you from this game, I think you go the Western Kentucky route. I think you go unders. It's my personal opinion. Okay. Reason being, they ran 82 plays in that game last week. Their previous season high was 71. So to me, that screams I mean, sure, it could happen again, but like I got 12 games of them throwing, of them playing 71 or below plays.
Right.
So I like the unders across the board here in terms of the passing game.
I get that. I think the plays run last week is a good call out, but like when we look at like pace of play and we look at teams, we usually look at it by like a team by team level, and this is like you said, the same team that they're playing. So I don't know that we're going to get like a completely different outcome. Like I doubt they put up that same high. What was it? 83, 84?
It's in the low 80s. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Probably don't see that again for Western Kentucky, but I don't know. I'm on the fence a little bit. I initially came in, I liked the Veltkamp over on 265.5. There's also that idea of having seen a team recently, going back and, usually the defense plays better the second time two teams meet up. At least that's the general thought in like the NFL. Like the second divisional matchup is usually a lower scoring game.
Yeah, or at least like whatever worked the last time probably isn't going to work this time because like coach is going to maybe emphasize one thing over another because it just exposes them type of thing.
Was this game already like locked in for sure last week?
I couldn't tell you. I'd be lying if I knew for sure. If I told you I did.
Yeah. No, I mean, my thought process there is that maybe they came in knowing that they'd have to see them again next week and went a little vanilla. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I too would be lying if I said I was dialed into the CUSA championship picture.
Regular season standings.
Yeah.
Chris Moxley says Little Birdie saying Huff should be good. So he's our resident message board guy. Austin says it was not locked in. I don't know who needed what, but here we are. And then Unabated Live, my buddy Tom. Week 15, Tom. We've been doing this for 15 weeks now. Appreciate you finally listening. I'll see you tomorrow, Tom. And I think like not digging into the specific plays. I think unders make sense. I probably, if there's one receiver, I probably would avoid just because like, I don't know, he's like the receiver one, Keshawn Johnson. Like, big game with implications on the line like that. Like, why not maybe avoid him and go to the other guys, other receivers? This Noah Myers guy is pretty funny on other options. Yeah, he's the replacement for River Helms. And he has a line which is interesting on other places. But I think I'm going unders. I'm going lowers, I should say. Yeah.
This is off the board and probably makes you feel a little queasy. But what do you think about Michael Petaway as an over here? 27.5 if Huff goes. I kind of like it.
That's a limited, this is that volatile position of like, does he catch the one or two passes thrown his way, I guess?
Right.
At least if it's Huff, you know that you're going to get a better quality of pass compared to the other
That's
guys.
not saying much, to be honest.
Which is not saying that much. Huff is valuable because of his legs. Petway, the last 4 games, 2, 1, 6, and 3 targets. So you're truly looking at like, does he catch the 1 or 2 targets?
Yeah.
Because it does seem like every play is a big play.
Cam Vaughn is another kind of strange one. Had 6 targets, 0 receptions against FIU. And then last week at Western Kentucky, 7 targets, 2 receptions. Had 2 targets in between there with that same Houston game. He's got 27.5 as his receiving number as well. Both of these guys, I was digging into the Friday slate for the write-up for, DFS. Vaughn and Petaway both are kind of like, obviously in DFS, they're cheap enough that, if they get a big play, they're kind of okay. But 27.5 is just such like a doable number for anybody who's not Jacksonville State, I
mean, that's a small line for sure, right? Yeah. And it does make you feel better if it's Huff again, right? That's a tiny line. Anything is possible. What was his injury, by the way? Lower body, ankle?
I'm not sure.
I'll take a quick look.
Yeah.
That could be impactful too. My guess is it was lower body just because of like his play style.
Right.
He tweaked his ankle. Yeah. So it's an ankle, potentially sprained, something like that. So it might not impact his throwing as much, which could be good. But the other, I'd say probably the most appealing game on tomorrow night is the Boise State UNLV rematch, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be fun. I'm looking forward to that one just because Last time it was a good matchup. They got some big players, right? Obviously, GT is a good player. Obviously, Ricky White, Haj Malik are fun players to watch.
Yep.
I think there's some good prop implications too as well. But what's your initial lean on this game?
Yeah, I think Moxley had mentioned a little call out earlier in the week about UNLV's receiver numbers being pretty low, and dug in there, and I mean it's pretty spot on. With Boise, you expect them to be a little bit more vulnerable through the air than on the ground. That said, I do think that Boise is going to do everything in their power to limit Ricky White. So I think that opens up the door for Jacob DeJesus with 31.5. I think that's probably my favorite play of the Friday games. Going higher than 31.5 seems like a decent play in my mind.
Yeah, he's really become, he came back. He was the one that was injured, then came back, right? He's really been that receiver too for them. And if they passed it a good bit, I would imagine this is like a low 30 scoring type of game. Competitive throughout the whole way, and I could see that. And it's 31.5. It's not a huge number,
right?
So 4 or 5 targets, 7 targets against Nevada. San Jose State. This is funny, and I think maybe some of these lines are impacted by that San Jose State game, where they basically were like, "No, we're not going to throw the football. Like, we're just not going to worry about any of this." But so I think over on Jacob DeJesus can make sense. There was a good Ricky White reception line at 5.5 receptions.
Would smash that all day.
Yeah, that higher there makes a lot of sense if you get a Ricky White 5.5. What do you think about GT? 173.5, but I want to say he ran for like $132 against UNLV in the first game.
Yeah, it's that situation again where I'm probably going with that receiving higher before I'm touching the rushing higher. 13.5, it's higher than it was last week. I think last week we saw 10.5, and I don't think he hit it last week. No receptions last week. So I'm partial there. It does feel like UNLV is a step up defensively than what Boise usually faces in the Mountain West. So I think that they'll probably have to get Janty in space a little bit more, especially if it's hard to say that a team contains somebody when they run for $135, but like UNLV did a pretty good job, especially early in that game, of really limiting the damage that Janty was able to do. So I like the receiving number there.
Yeah, this is tough because I do think UNLV is going to really key in on GT again, and to make sure that make Madison beat him through the air, which could open up the passing game.
Yeah,
our projections technically have him as, I think it's like 15.5 yards is what we have him at, but based on like how often they run and things like that, not necessarily a higher play, but he's kind of an interesting one. Like he's gotten a bunch of targets over the last like 2 months, like in real games, but some of those haven't turned out to win. So like that's a tough one. It's so tough that I'm tired of losing to it. I bet the higher.
I completely understand that.
So I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Like I'm done with Carson Beck. I'm done with Riley Leonard. Like I don't care what the numbers say. I'm not messing with it. I'm tired of it.
I bet I can get you back in on a Harrison Wallace.
You're not getting me anywhere near Harrison Wallace. You can believe that. I got one taste of it, and I'm out.
What do you think about the receiving numbers for Boise? We did say, if they are able to key in on Janty, it's going to make Madsen have to throw more. We've got Camper 58.5, had a pretty decent number on Caples. It's creeping up. It's up to 40.5 right now on his receiving number. Do you like either of those? Are you willing to take a higher on either of those, or where you at?
I mean, Camper's definitely been that top guy, and he's seen an uptick in usage. One guy I like that the more vibe play than like true numbers tell me play. And it's on brand. Matt Lauder, tight end, 35.5 yards is like pretty on par.
Yeah.
Against UNLV, he had 4 for 38, but he's had some big games. 4 for 96 against Washington State, 7 for that's before that. After the UNLV game was like, I keep reading the ESPN game log backwards. Nevada was 5 for 61, Oregon State 3 for 45. Like he is a true tight end used. And you wonder if UNLV says, you know what, like we're going to get rid of GT. We need to keep an eye on Camper. And then it's like, okay, what about like, what does Caples do? What does Lauder do? So like my numbers don't necessarily support a higher on Louder, but I like Louder as like a vibes play, as like a gut feeling play. Otherwise, like Camper, I think the higher makes sense. You know, you try to figure out like how much do we really put in for like the big game narrative, you know, like big players in big games, right? Like you have to think that some teams are not going to, they're going to live by the sword, die by the sword, right? We're going to live by throwing the ball to Ricky White.
Yeah.
And so you have to think that that continues. I don't think Camper's on that level of like big player name, but like he's definitely their best receiver.
Yeah, I agree there.
What Saturday game? I don't want to touch Tulane Army, to be quite honest.
I was going to say that's not a whole lot there that I love.
Army's just so tough, man, because like, is it really possible for Bryce, for Daly to run like 70% of times every game?
Seriously.
You know, I'll say this: if you think that Daly doesn't run 70% of the time, you probably should go higher on Kanye Udo.
That's the only thing.
45.5 is a pretty low line.
We think Tulane can take him, can get the win here.
I think they're favorites, right?
Are they?
I just kind of pulled that one out of thin air. They are 4.5-point favorites.
Okay.
24.75 to 20.25 is the projected.
Where is that game being played? Do you
know? They usually play this one at like an actual field, don't they? Isn't this like
at the home team or at the higher seed?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm fairly positive they're playing. They're playing in West Point. That's cool. On ABC, also cool. In conjunction with at the same time as UNLV and Boise State. Like, which one are you watching?
That's I don't know. The fact that it's in West Point kind of swayed me a little bit.
Yeah, why is that cooler for some reason?
Yeah,
I have no idea why that's cooler, but it feels cooler.
Fun fact: first ever in-person college football game at West Point. So
were you 5, 7?
It's probably like 5 or 6.
Cool. That doesn't diminish it.
No.
Arizona State and Iowa State.
Yeah.
What's good?
What's good? I know we're probably gonna duel a little bit here with these wide receivers. I've said before I'm a fan of Xavier Guillory. I think he's a good option to go over at 44.5. I kind of like Melquan Stovall 32.5 too. Like I think we covered it well on the podcast this week that Melquan Stovall. If you're playing DFS, like ownership comes into play, so he's appealing there. But I think if you're just going like, are you going to take Stovall 12 yards lower than Guillory? Probably. I think that's a big enough gap that I'd probably prefer Stovall over Guillory. But I have more confidence in general that Guillory is going to be a featured player in this game.
Yeah, there's some interesting pieces of this, right? Because like Jordan Tyson's out for the rest of the year. They basically admitted they kind of seem like it's hopeful for the start of 2025. Nothing scary about that.
Yeah.
Using Unabated's little prop screen here that tells us like line movement.
Yeah.
The movement on these numbers have been insane. Shimon Mateer started at 19.5. He's at 31.5.
Oh, wow.
We look at Stovall. He was at 13.5. Now he's at 32.5.
He was at 13.5.
Yeah.
Dang.
Guillory. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought I got a good number. I'm pretty sure I got it at like 27.
Guillory, 22.5. Now at 44.5.
Yeah.
Crazy. The movement there. They just didn't see that one coming. So hopefully you guys were paying attention and understood the assignment and kind of looked into it. I think like if you talk to some of the better/best prop bettors, and I know Mike's not listening, so I'll say his name, Mike Bainbridge, Froton, those types of guys, like it's all about looking at stuff on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And those lines were very low. And even if like not all three of those guys are going to go over or higher, right? Yeah. But like, man, 2 of them probably. Yeah. The one wrench in the plan here is Malik McLean. Do you see
former Penn State player, isn't he?
Yeah. So 2 things with this Arizona State deal. McLean has rotated in practice with the 1s and 2s.
Oh, I know the name you're going to say next, though.
And I'm not sure how much I'm buying this, but Troy O'Meara could be the receiver. He's kind of slotted into that Tyson role. So if that's truly the case, then I imagine they change their passing style. There's no way they throw the ball 45%
The
of them,
the Tyson rule means he's standing where Tyson stood at one point in time before the snap. So
he's literally in his shoes. That's about it.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think about it.
I don't buy them, either of those guys, being heavy usage guys at all. I'm pretty sure. I'm interested. So how many times do you think they throw the ball on Saturday?
The problem here, right? I don't think they throw a ton, like 20 to 25.
So you like the lower on the 27.5 passing attempts?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay. I think they're going to have to throw it a little bit more, and I think both of these offenses are going to have to throw it more than they want to throw it. But I mean, we've seen Iowa State all year throw it more than they want to throw it. Like, they can't figure out a running back that they want to rely on. So, Beck's had that increased usage, but it's interesting. I'm of the opinion that Iowa State's defense is good enough to They're good enough to make Arizona State have to rely on more than just handing the ball off to Scottaboo. You seem unconvinced.
Does that mean throwing to Scottaboo, though?
I was just about to say, like, that does leave the door open for Scottaboo receptions, but I don't think that Scottaboo is, like, I wouldn't take the higher on 120.5 rushing yards for Scottaboo.
Or 35. 34.5 is a little steep for
it is. It's very steep.
That's the problem there. Yeah. So let's talk Penn State, Oregon.
Okay.
What do you... I don't know, man. I guess my question is, like, in terms of leans, we've kind of talked about the game already and campus to caching. But, like, I don't know. Projection-wise, it's hard not to give Singleton and Catron about the same usage. But doesn't it feel like they should just say, like, screw you, Catron, and just go heavy on Singleton? Yeah, there's no numbers or data to support it.
I've said that before. It's
vibes.
Completely
like, what are you doing?
Yeah, completely a vibes play, but I think Singleton goes off. I like higher than 65.5. I am torn a little bit between if I like the rushing and receiving yards more, 97.5, and getting that pass production, because they do like to throw it to him out of the backfield. Like, Aller is seasoned enough and a good enough quarterback to go through his reads and check down. I know we say, like, check down king is like a pejorative around here, but, like, you've got to go through your reads to check down, and he's able to do that. So he gets good looks. So I kind of like that 97.5 a little bit more. It's just that 65.5 seems so low. If you do buy into the fact that they're going to lean on him more than they have the past few weeks.
What do you think? What do you think Aller's targets are, like, in terms of, like, what are his actual reads? Because it's probably Warren, Wallace, Singleton, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
He doesn't look at Clifford or Fleming much.
No, I mean, they'll get a few, but, like, yeah, Moxley says Tyler Warren twice, check down. No, I do think I think that Harrison Wallace is his legit second read in most.
He's got to be. I think you theoretically have to look at a receiver once.
Yeah.
Not counting on the other guys. Would you are you worried at all about Oregon's defense? And if so, is this an opportunity for a lower on a Drew Aller passing yard number?
I think Oregon's defense is good, not great. I think that Ohio State's defense is probably better than Oregon's defense. There's another thing, and, like, I don't know. You know me. I'm so heavily on narrative trains that, like, I can sometimes rabbit trail a little too much. But, like, Penn State and Ohio State know each other. It's like Ohio State, Michigan, in the way that, like, Michigan knew how to win last week.
Right.
Like, they know the teams. There's a psychology into it. These kids are, 18 to 22 years old, 24, 25 if you're, McCormick for Miami. But, I feel like this is a situation where I don't think Penn State plays as conservative as they do against a team like Ohio State and Oregon. But I also don't think that Oregon is going to be as like I think they're going to have to feel each other out early. And I get the idea that Penn State is going into this with house money and saying, hey, we didn't even think we were going to be here last week, like 24 hours prior to last week. Like they weren't even really entertaining this option. Obviously, Coach Speak says differently, and they're going to say they always have been playing for this every week. But I don't know. I get the feeling that they're going to come out aggressive and be loose and be a little bit, have some fun with the opportunity. That could be positive thinking just because of how I know James Franklin usually is in big games. But like this feels a little bit different than like a Ohio State Michigan rivalry. I know you're not going to say it's a rivalry, but like it's a rivalry. So I all of that to say, I think that they're going to be more aggressive. I think Aller can throw for 200 yards pretty easily. But I get the mentality. I get the idea of like, this is a good offense. If you go to the Chris K school of bet against Penn State, this is a good opportunity to do it. So I'm not going to argue that.
I think Penn State and Oregon have very similar-ish defense. Like statistically, they're like right next to each other in a lot of different areas. Not like in the super in-depth metrics, but like yards per attempt, passing yards per game allowed, TD, INT ratio, stuff like that. You do make a good point about like, I think Franklin does have a tough time because Michigan and Ohio State both know how to beat them.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of like, once you play, you have to get on the field and play it and see it and do it and to understand it, I think, at least over time. And so I think it is a little bit different. I don't think it's the same type of like, well, you're facing a great Michigan defense or a great Ohio State defense. They might be able to get away with a few different things. Franklin's decision-making and, off the Kotelnicki's like offensive style might work a little bit better against a team he's never faced before, right? Like Penn State's great against pretty much every team except for Michigan and Ohio State, right? So maybe Oregon is that team for just a minute, just for this year, maybe.
I mean, it feels like a bowl matchup too. Like I think about how like Penn State's, underperformed in recent memory in bowl games, but like they never get, I don't even want to say this, but like they never get blown out in a situation like that. Like they're usually, they're able to keep pace. They're able to stick with it. So I'm pretty optimistic that this team is able to continue to put up. If they aren't able to run the football, it's going to get ugly though.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just set to just pass, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Sure. Do you know my favorite pick in this game?
Knowing you, let's see here. Is it Warren over receiving yards?
No,
you're not going to go.
You got to think more on brand, man.
Ferguson over receiving yards.
Nah, even deeper in the pocket.
Oh God, here we go.
Sanders Sahadak is not the starting kicker for Penn State.
What's he doing here then?
Exactly. So 5.5 kicking points. I will take the lower all day and hope he gets kickoff duty or something weird happens. Like I'm adding him to every ticket as a 5.5 kicking points under lower.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah. I wonder what could possibly happen here.
I have like Googled my ass off for the past like 2 or 3 days to try and find any rumblings of Ryan Barker not being the starting kicker.
Oh wow, this is wild. I wonder.
I can't find it.
Not even sure what to think.
Yeah. So I am locked in on that. It's probably going to get voided. He's probably going to be a DNP, but like, what if he's not?
Yeah, it looks kind of like was Sahadak earlier in the season the starter?
He started the year in a kicking competition. Both of those kickers at the beginning of the year ended up not panning out. And so Ryan Barker is a walk-on and cemented his status in that 4 field goal USC game where he kicked the walk-off game winner. He's not being replaced for performance reasons. Like maybe there's an injury that they're just not talking about, that these, guys setting these numbers know, but like I haven't heard any buzz. And like I said, I've been combing through, message boards, seeing if there's anything, and I can't see it.
Yeah, so Sahaydak is 5.5 kicking points, 0.5 field goals made as lower as 1.41 x, and 2.5 x made, extra points made lower as 1.06. So it's juiced on the lowers. I wonder if this is, you can do it, and I don't think you're betting enough. This feels like a situation where if you bet it, you're just like finding a way to get limited on the site.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Good luck. I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully. I think the good news is that, I don't know, it does kind of feel like Penn State could not really score much in this game. So even if he was the kicker.
I mean, the nightmare scenario is Barker gets injured on like an extra point or something, and Sahaydak comes in early.
But he wasn't good. He got replaced.
He wasn't good.
You still have that in your back pocket. Like, even if he does play.
That's why I'm going after kicking points and not chasing the juice on half a field goal made. Because I do see a scenario where he kicks one field goal on like mop up duty, but like
you'd have to kick a 50-yarder and an extra point to get there.
Yeah.
So okay, well, I think that wraps it up. We got some other games in the hopper. Georgia, Texas, obviously. I'd say I stay alert on that one. We're not going to dig into it just because I don't know, man. Jaden Blue, they said they kind of made it seem like he was banged up in the second half, and that's why Wisner got so much usage. ATN is listed at questionable. Anything could change, though, in a game of this magnitude, and he hasn't played in a while. So,
can we talk real quick Clemson receivers? Because
sure.
I think you were digging into some injury information. Do we know? Is it Tyler Brown? Is there anything you've seen that is suggesting he's going to be in?
At Unabated News, they have posted that we have posted that Tyler Brown has been practicing.
Okay.
But to me, I don't know what that means. I don't know if I'm buying that. I'm not currently buying that. I think if I'm going to project it, I'm projecting him limited.
Yeah.
It's just kind of hard to believe that with the way Wesco and Moore have played that they're going to get docked for Tyler Brown, who
totally
fell into a decent role and was decent at it.
Well, if that's the case, I am fully in on Antonio Williams over again, higher than 64.9.
Yeah, Mock says they have 3 starters better than him. We liked all the overs with Moore and Wesco last week, and they panned out. I mean, Cade's just been very good in the past game. This feels like it could be a really fun, high-scoring game.
Yeah,
and that route is interesting to me. So, I like the hires on some of these guys. They have creeped up, right? Like, Wesco 51.5, and Moore last week was 30.5. If we get one for him, it's probably in the 40s. So, it will be a little interesting to see where they put him. But yeah, well, almost 100 live viewers on a Thursday afternoon.
Love to see it.
Thanksgiving.
Championship buzz.
Yeah, continuing to skip work. I love it. Or everybody is just West Coast or Mountain West and on actual lunch break.
There we go.
Appreciate you guys watching. Enjoy the games this weekend. Use C2C if you've, for some reason, never deposited or created an account on Underdog. I can't imagine that's anybody at this point that's watching. Appreciate some of the different comments there. And we'll catch you guys soon for some